A firefighter's job is to save lives, no matter what. So when firefighter Sebastian rescued an adorable brood of puppies from a burning house, he was shocked to learn that he wasn't really risking his life for the dogs. In fact, as soon as it became official who these little creatures really were, many were shocked, and by that time, their owners were nowhere to be seen. After all, they had a lot to explain. He was still recovering from the rescue operation when he received a call from the veterinarian they had been brought to. He expected to receive a message that they were either fine or they had failed. He prepared for the worst, but never expected to hear this. The veterinarian told him that the animals he saved were not really puppies, but an animal he had never seen before. Sebastian was confused. Not dogs? Who were they? Sebastian has been a dedicated firefighter for over 18 years. During this time, he saved many people and animals, but none of them created a story like his last rescue. What happened to him some time ago was quite remarkable. Even his colleagues had never experienced something like this before. When the fire department received the call, they knew there was not a second to lose, and Sebastian and his team jumped into action, being on the road within a minute. When they arrived, it turned out that the fire was coming from the roof of a relatively large villa not directly adjacent to any other buildings. The good news was that the chance of the fire spreading to other houses was minimal, but the bad news was that they could already see that the fire cannot be put out in time before the house burns to the ground. By this point, no one had left the house yet, so Sebastian knew he needed to get in right now if he wanted to potentially save someone's life. He wanted to make sure there was no one in the house, and if there was someone inside, he was determined to save him. He immediately set to work. He broke down the door, ran into the house, and first checked the bedrooms upstairs. Luckily, no one was there, and he quickly went downstairs because the heat was getting too intense. Thanks to his many years of experience, he knew what he was doing. He quickly scanned the lower floor for any sign of life. The flames began to flare up stronger, and with every second the fire grew larger. At the time when the house burned to the ground, Sebastian started talking to the neighbors. He wanted to be sure he gave the right sign. He didn't see anyone inside, but he wanted confirmation that his decision to signal was the right one. Neighbors said they had no idea where the owners of the house were. One neighbor even saw them that very evening, and when she went to bed, the lights were on in the house. So how could they not be in the house? Was it pure coincidence? Or was something else going on? When Sebastian told them about the puppies he wanted, his eyebrows went up even more. As far as they knew, the family did not have any dogs. So why was there a box with these little animals in the house? They tried a couple of times to call the family, but they never picked up the phone. Sebastian wrote down the number so he could try again the next day. Usually the police do this type of house burning, but Sebastian wanted to talk to the owners about the puppies. After about half an hour, the puppies are picked up and taken to an animal rescue shelter, where they will be examined by a local veterinarian. Sebastian considered it important that these animals be properly cared for. He wanted to make sure they were all right. Here they will remain until hopefully their owner takes them or they are given up for adoption. Sebastian thinks this is the last time he hears it, but he couldn't be more wrong. Sebastian didn't foresee this. What was wrong? Meanwhile, paramedics examined Sebastian for any injuries. Luckily, after being examined in an ambulance, it was determined that Sebastian had no serious injuries as a result of entering the burning house and could return home that same night. The fire brigade decided to reward him with a couple of days of paid leave so he could fully recover. But as it turned out, these days cannot be devoted to rest, as the next morning he is awakened by a call from the Animal Rescue Center. The call came too early for Sebastian's eyes, but as soon as he picked up the phone, he instantly forgot his anger. The person on the other end of the line is from the rescue center and wants to brief Sebastian on the situation. Sebastian can't wait to find out how the animals he rescued are doing, and is more than happy to answer the call. The rescuer continues to talk about the condition of the animals. The animals are still a little shocked, but they seem to be doing well. All of them are in a stable condition, and the animals will definitely recover completely. Sebastian couldn't help but notice that the person on the other end of the line kept calling the puppies animals. Before Sebastian could ask about it, the rescuer continued by saying that the owner of the animals in the burned house hadn't shown up yet. The rescuers contacted the police, but also they haven't figured out who the owners are yet. But there was something else. The lifeguard continues to tell the news. The veterinarian has determined the animals are not puppies. They are not sure who they are. It's hard to tell as they are still in their infancy, but there are many theories. Sebastian is just as confused as they are, but he tries to help in any way he can. Sebastian did not pay much attention to this during the rescue from the fire. According to him, they seemed to him like puppies. Veterinarian came to the conclusion that whatever they were not native to the United States or even North America in general. They were most likely wild animals, but how did they get here? Sebastian is more than a little surprised by the veterinarian's findings, but little can be done about it. This call was not from an animal rescue center, but rather from the police. They wanted Sebastian to come and answer a few questions. They didn't tell him much, but they confirmed that it's about the burned house and the animals, and it's definitely connected to him. Sebastian wastes no time and goes to the police station. Once there, he discusses the situation with the officer, no longer wishing to remain in the dark. The detectives talk to him and say that they figured out what started the fire. Or better yet, who started the fire. This fire was not an accident, and the police were certain of it. This was news to Sebastian, but he let them keep trying to figure out how he was involved in all of this. Although the police had little information, they knew that the fire had been deliberately set, or at least they strongly suspected it. The police spoke to all the neighbors who surrounded the burnt house. One of the neighbors recalled that the owners of the house loaded things into their car and sped away a few minutes before the fire started. The neighbor saw the fire start and reported it. The neighbor continued by saying that they have been watching the owners of the house since they moved here. A neighbor who was following the owners was able to identify them and the car they were driving. The owners were arrested that morning in a town just a few hours away. They didn't actually talk, but there were many possible connections and theories going around. Unfortunately, the evidence was burned. For the most part, the police would conclude that the owners of the house were not a young, happily married couple, but rather a couple of criminals operating on a large scale as part of an international crime ring. They used their home as a meeting place and distribution of their products. The police, based on their connections, were almost certain that the couple was involved in everything from extortion to drug trafficking and smuggling. One of their latest product batches was full of endangered animal species. It was here that Sebastian was to come to the rescue later. The puppies were going to be stars. Unfortunately for the pair of criminals, the law was right on their heels. With so many visitors in their home, business flourished, which of course attracted the attention of the authorities. It was then that the criminals made their biggest mistake, which could lead to their capture. The couple decided to pack their things and move out. They will burn down the house with all the evidence inside as soon as they are ready to leave. And unfortunately, this plan really succeeded. They hid for a while, and the house burned to the ground, taking most of the evidence with it. While the police had several theories about what exactly the perpetrators were up to, nothing could be said for sure, as the evidence was burned to the ground. But there was one thing that could both improve and destroy this case. The animals that Sebastian saved could be the key evidence they need to catch the criminals. The detectives thanked him for his help with the investigation. But he wasn't done with the case yet. Most of the evidence was burned along with the house, and there were several interesting animals in the evidence parking lot. It was these exotic wild animals that would prove the actions of the criminals and put them in jail. When the couple successfully went to jail, they decided to talk, and with the animal evidence, they were able to get more international attention, forcing them to wind down their business. And in the end, it turned out that these animals were actually endangered Australian wombat cubs.